Oh God, and then I read the bell jar. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here.
Hello!
I was an avid diary keeper throughout my teenage years, so I thought it would be fun to reminisce about the past a little bit and look back at a random diary to see if I can detect any signs that I was autistic in them. I had a lot of feelings at that age. This is from 2002 to 2003, which would make me 16 or 17. Such a special age. So let's start at the beginning. I think it started January the 1st. I had a weird obsession at the time with writing New Year's resolutions because I was constantly trying to improve myself. And I actually had 10 this year, but I'm not gonna read them all. I'll just read the most pertinent ones. Work to the best of your ability at school and avoid being lazy and procrastinating. Yep, my executive functioning issues come up a lot in this book. Don't worry about what other people think of you, just be yourself and hold your head up high. That's very, very sweet, actually. Stop being so cut off and hermit-like. Go to another social, laugh at everyone, and have fun. I feel like I had been reading too many teen magazines and taking their advice way too seriously here. Remember that your opinions and interests are just as valid and important as everyone else's. This was basically like me trying to tell myself, you must like yourself better. And the last one, cheer up and live life to the full this year. You're only 16 once, thank God for that. You can probably get a sense of the kind of intense 16-year-old that I was writing it in my diary. Right, so one of my special interests-ish when I was a teenager was Alanis Morissette. I was a big fan. And really related to music. Didn't everyone though? But this one is, I have spent about 3 hours on the internet reading about Alanis Morissette's new album, and it sounds really amazing. Did anyone actually do anything cool in their teenage years? Because I didn't. Yeah, so I would read the lyrics back in the days when you had CDs and they had inserts. I would read all the lyrics and analyze all the lyrics, and that was kind of a thing that I used to do. But of course, listening to Alanis Morissette was probably the worst thing I could have done because it made me turn into this extremely sort of ruminating kind of personality. I'm really depressed because I'm turning into a horrible young adult. And I'm sure no one else, let alone myself, will like me if I carry on this way. So I have to stop, pause, whatever. I need to sort out my soul. Yeah, don't we all? I feel like self-hatred was the theme of this book. I really seem to hate myself a lot, which is really sad. I don't think I was that bad. I was just quiet. The theme of this is self-hatred and severe executive functioning issues, almost to the extent where I'm like, do I perhaps have ADHD? Because from this, it kind of seems like I do. But maybe it was just being a teenager. I really dislike the person I'm becoming. I don't do prep, watch DVDs at school, like that's the worst thing in the world, spend hours on the computer. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I need to get a grip soon. I've been so uptight, so afraid to be young that sooner or later I'm either going to wake up and be old or bad. Sorry. Whatever's wrong with me has to stop. It's really sad, actually. Like, I feel like I want to give her a hug. Right, so we're still on January. There's plenty of good content in here. I am having a rant about a teacher. I did an English oral presentation on Monty Python. Apparently, I was very unimpressed that the teacher used the fact that she went to university with Michael Palin and therefore she knows everything in the world about Monty Python, and I like ranting about that, and I'm just like, everyone's doubting me even though I know so much about Monty Python. So I mean, I was very intense with my special interests. I knew a lot, and I got really annoyed with people trying to tell me that I didn't. I definitely have mixed emotions reading this because it's gonna make me laugh, but it's also really sad. Inappropriate emotional responses to things. That's an autistic trait. I can't even stand to be around me. I'm lazy, as I can't be bothered to do any work. Nothing seems to motivate or excite me except for TV. And then I put in brackets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm so inarticulate, both in speech and in movement. I can't talk or dance spontaneously. I don't know why dancing spontaneously was like very important to me, but I'm rubbish at everything and I'm never the best. My friends are probably all laughing behind my back and I just want to die. It would be so much easier. And that's sad, but then I spoil it by saying, this is a quote from Buffy, I guess the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. Oh my God, I'm tearing up now. My writing's stupid. My lack of artistic talent prevents me from nice or even regular writing. And the worst thing is I've got so much going for me and I feel nothing. And then I quote Buffy again and again. So at the end, I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. Yes. Now, I clearly had a lot of feelings about the people around me, but I don't know why I was quite so angry about this. I'm not going to say any names because I say the full names here, but I'm just going to say blah blah is just creepy, and I'll be glad to not see her for a month. She's so touchy-feely with everyone, did not like to be touched, and has such a dull, annoying personality. If I was her, I think I would kill myself. It's difficult, but she's worse than blah blah. Blah blah doesn't understand that people don't hate her because of her dress sense or her interest. They hate her because she's a self-obsessed, bitchy, arrogant, and delusional person. Wow. Now, I'm not saying I'm none of those things, but I'd like to think I have some sense and sense of reality. You know, I don't think I did at the time. That's the sad thing. I think I was in such a little bubble. I had so little sense of the wider world that I kind of went inwards on myself and had all these ideas about things and people that just weren't true. Right, so something that probably not many people know about me, because I never told anyone, because I was too embarrassed, is that when I was a teenager, especially a younger teenager, I really, really wanted to be an actress. So here it goes. Just figured out why I want to be an actress. I have so many personalities and styles and moods, etc. And I love being all of them. And so being able to act would be my schizophrenic dream. Of course, I was not familiar with the correct definition of schizophrenia. I thought it was multiple personality disorder, but you know. I know that there are a lot of autistic actors. Even though I was so shy that I didn't really do drama. I did when I got a little bit older. I was in a couple of the plays, but I was just so shy, and I don't know why on earth I thought that I could be an actress. But hey, now I'm on YouTube living my dream, right? So this is from the 14th of July, and is definitely very telling. I think I realized why I find life so hard. Asterisk, down at the bottom. This theory will depend on you believing in souls. I don't think I believed in souls, but whatever. I'm a brand new soul, brand spanking new. I am not prepared for life because I've never done it before. Everyone else seems to know what they're doing and how to do things, and I worry about the minor thing because I have no idea about procedure. So this is like an indicator that I really felt like everybody had this sort of knowledge, social knowledge, that I just didn't. I didn't know how to do normal life things. Right, so end of August, and I did my first work experience at a local paper. And I say, after 3 days of work experience, I am pretty sure journalism is not for me. Although I did meet Ian Duncan Smith today, which was quite good. It really wasn't that good, but I think I was very impressed by celebrity of any kind. Oh, actually, here, the day before, I'm talking about how I need to phone various different people. I don't know why I had to phone my friend's mum, but apparently I did, and the work experience place, and I'm talking about how, like, I can't be bothered, I'm really scared of this, and I just feel like crap. So I was really anxious about making phone calls even back then. Right, so we're getting to December 2002, and I just started boarding at school, and I think I'd had a really terrible term. But here I'm talking about the play that we did, and a conversation that I had with the teacher who organized the play, and she said something to me like, oh, I know you only wanted to be in it for the dancing, but we turned you into an actress, something like that. I don't think she did, but that's something nice to say. But it was funny because I did really want to do acting then, and I say here, I was shocked but played along. Was my face really that glum? Did I give off an air of not wanting to be there? What? Why would I take part in a play just for the dancing? So maybe you can see also a little bit about how I sometimes do have a very maybe blank face. Certainly I've got a bit of a resting bitch face, but I think also that my emotions don't necessarily come out in my facial expressions. Right, so it's January 2003 now, and I have gained quite a lot of clarity in the last year apparently. Because I think the part of my problem is making resolutions, which is a really good start. I never gain anything from it, and I'm just striving for perfection, which I'll never achieve. So, clever Sam, here are some New Year's suggestions. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm laughing at myself way too much. Exercise more. Stretch every night. Get down and boogie. Don't know what that means. Don't eat so much chocolate. Say what's on your mind in class. Give blah blah a chance. That was a boy I liked. Find out who you are and be yourself. Remember you actually are beautiful. Aww. Do work not only on time, but to the best of your ability. Not just for the sake of getting it done. Get better at making small talk. Well, medium talk. Wear what you want to wear. Be kinder to blah blah. Be nicer to blah blah. Read. Don't dawdle so much. Did I dawdle? Be wholesome. Be wholesome. And it really doesn't matter what people think of you. I think I'm paranoid, or just realizing that real life people aren't like in the movies. Just realizing this age 17, which is why I love movies so much. Yep, too true. So I'm gonna have to calm down because I found that kind of funny. Because the next entry is really sad. Trigger warning, suicide. I'm going on about how rubbish I am, and there was a parent-teacher meeting and I felt just awful about the whole thing, and I'm not as good at this as I thought I was. I don't know why I have a bullet point. A bullet point. I've thought about suicide a lot these past few days. Full stop. So hopefully I'll have a good half term. And then I have drawn a picture of myself as Ophelia. I'm not even gonna show. Okay. Well, I really wasn't very good at drawing. I've drawn a picture of myself. I know that I was supposed to be Ophelia. I definitely thought about suicide a lot. I never took any action or made any attempts. I never self-harmed, but it was just something that I just couldn't get out of my head for whatever reason. Suicide rates among autistic people are about 9 times that of the general population. So this is a huge problem. It's not really clear to me why exactly I had all these thoughts. I was clearly very depressed and had very low self-esteem and thought that there was something really wrong with me. And so I suppose, in addition to all the other problems or things I was going through as a teenager, that's kind of a kicker. And I was undiagnosed celiac disease, I had undiagnosed PCOS, so I had a lot of health problems, and I think those contributed definitely to me feeling really low. And because I was such a picky eater, I would really eat a lot of sugar, and I think that also didn't help my mental health as well. I think 2003 was when it was worse, especially in that autumn or something. I really had a very bad period of depression, that I was lucky that I had a few friends who were able to kind of like not talk me out of suicide, but talk me out of feeling so depressed. And I was just, my mood was all over the place. You can see why a couple of years later I actually thought that I might have borderline personality disorder, because this journal entry is saying about suicide, and the next one, which is a day later, says, I never ever want to forget this moment of overwhelming happiness that comes with the realization that you received an actual Valentine's card and some red roses. Intense. That was the next day. This is like very, very up and down. I probably was like that for a few more years, and then in my 20s the ups and downs really stabilized a lot. But yeah, I mean, you can see why, like, I went from this mood to this mood to this mood, just like that. So talking about like slightly more positive things, I was doing work experience in Germany to learn German, I guess, and I was at a cafe. It was only a week, but honestly it was awful and lonely, and I couldn't really speak German, and I couldn't really understand German, and the woman who was my, I'd like to say supervisor, but that's a very broad term, she smoked in the kitchen, which I found absolutely repulsive. And so by the second day I was pretty much fighting off tears for the rest of the week. I clearly had so much emotion, but I didn't want to cry in public, so I came up with this mantra to stop myself crying, which was also a Buffy quote. I was quite the fan. I still am, actually. I've been using Buffy as a sort of mantra to stop myself bursting into tears. Sometimes at work I get so confused and overwhelmed, but the phrase, "it's Buffy," keeps me grounded. Now, if you're a Buffy fan, you might know that it's when she's working at a construction site and everybody's being super patronizing to her, and they've getting her name wrong, and she's just like, it's Buffy. And so I would actually play that phrase over and over and over as like a grounding sentence, probably kind of like an internal stim almost, but that would be my way of like stopping myself from crying so I could get through the day. And there's actually a couple of, sometimes I get little earworms from TV shows or quotes or something, and I can't get them out of my head, and then sometimes I kind of develop the earworms as a response to something, not song earworms, but like phrases. And so this is one actually that kept going, and sometimes when I'm in a stressful situation, I have that echoing in my head, that phrase, like as a form of emotional, or as a form of internal emotional regulation. Right, so we're back on to June 2003, and I'm just going on and on about Buffy and how the last episode made me cry.
It's always been there for me and my emotions and helped me grow, and then season 6 was depressing when I was depressed, and season 7 was optimistic and I feel more optimistic.
It was a very big special interest of mine, so. And then the next day, so much for the happy phase, I've just sunk into a deep bout of depression. So I was also really upset when my friend got a boyfriend. I did not have a boyfriend because I could not talk to boys. I thought that flirting was insulting. I was basically like, I don't know. I just thought that if you flirted with somebody, you had to insult them. I don't know where I got that idea from. Probably 90s TV. We went to say happy birthday to that blah blah's mum, and she was just doing so much with her life. Driving lessons, going out with her friends, boyfriends, boyfriends' friends, friends' boyfriends. And what do? Write teen angsty, poetic, crappy songs and cry all the time. Watch TV and nothing else. I'm such a boring person. I can't make conversation. And I swear I have a radar that repels most guys from me. I just want to say, if you're a teenager watching this and you write this kind of stuff in your diary, I am not laughing at you. Absolutely not. I'm laughing at me because it seems like it's coming from a different person. I'm 33 years old now. So what's 17? Like this was 16 years ago. And like, this doesn't even resonate with me. So if you're thinking like, this is gonna be how it is for the rest of your life, it's really not. I mean, I'm talking about like, I will leave school as someone who doesn't know any guys and live a pathetic, unfulfilled life as some lame person who is too scared to get a job or face rejection of any sort. And then I'll die alone, friendless, penniless in a hovel. That was the drama that I'd created in my life because of how I felt and because of the pain that I was suffering, the very real pain that I had inside. In some ways, I couldn't see a future. I couldn't see it getting better. And I think that's part of the reason why I struggled so much when I did go to university, because I just didn't know where I was heading. I felt so immature and so incapable of living a grown-up life. Eventually I did become a grown-up, even though I still feel like I'm a little behind everybody. I did grow up and I have managed to achieve things that I'm proud of. Yeah, don't get me wrong, if you write stuff like this in your diary, you go for it. It's a process that we all have to go through, I think. And especially autistic people who have just a lot of stuff going on in our heads all the time. So we're getting to a point where I don't really want to share some of this. Firstly, because I think there are some things that should be private. I developed feelings towards someone, and it varied from thinking like I've got a crush on them to I'm completely in love with them to maybe I'm just really obsessed with them. But I think that this being obsessed with a person, at the time when I thought that that was what being in love was, as you know from possibly a previous video, I have alexithymia, which means that I don't know how to articulate my emotions and I don't know what things feel like. And so I know that I had feelings all of a sudden. And so I figured that that must be love. And looking back on it, it was definitely more like obsession. And it just drove me into this awful turmoil. And I really wouldn't wish that on anyone. The rest of the diary is just like my downfall, really. You know, I got incredibly depressed, and I would be doing really like weird obsessive things, you know, like I'm gonna lose some weight because then I deserve this person. Or I'm gonna jump on the trampoline. I had a trampoline in the garden at the time. I'm gonna jump on it for X amount of minutes because then that makes me worthy. So there were definitely, I think that's something that a lot of autistic people might be able to relate to, is developing obsessions with people that aren't really about actually liking them or being in love or anything like this, but just like a person, like an earworm sort of person that sort of gets in your brain and then that's all that you can think about. And it really just drove me absolutely insane, I will say. You know, and as I mentioned before, that was the time when I really was like very, very unhappy. But I mean, it took me about 6 months. It did get better. And then, I mean, I didn't even see this person again. But once I left school, it meant that I was starting to do more things, and so I was becoming more occupied with other things. So I don't really know what the whole point of trying to say this was. It was a very profound experience and impacted me greatly, but my God, it was unpleasant at the time. I kind of thought that that was love for a very long time, and that made it very hard to build any meaningful relationships with people because I was waiting for this feeling again, and this feeling never came up again, maybe once. And so because of my alexithymia and my inaccessibility to my own kind of real emotions, you know, it just put me in a horrible place. Anyway, that's my way of describing what happened without telling you at all what happened. I'm sorry. You know, actually, I found my emotions so inaccessible that I actually, you know how some people name their sexual organs? Well, I named my heart / capacity for loving, and I named him, apparently it's a man, my heart is a man, I named him Boris. I could not talk about my feelings without personifying them, which is very interesting to me and sad. And this is an example of me trying to work out this problem. So back to my original question, is this love? Is it? Unrequited, obviously, but do I match symptoms? Symptoms of love, yeah, it's like a psychological disorder. Are my feelings strong enough for it to be love? I'm so confused. I make a point about how why this person was different and why possibly they kind of like triggered something in my brain. Because I say here, thinking about how blah blah considers me to be articulate has raised an interesting point in my mind. When I speak to most people, I'm not articulate, but when I speak to blah blah, I feel that my brain actually connects with my mouth and I can speak clearly for once. And this is really interesting because I do feel like that a lot of the time with other people as well. There are some people, and the people that I generally am closest with are the people that I can actually think and be articulate, and there's some kind of like spark that makes me funnier, makes me cleverer. It's like part of them stimulates something inside of me. So it's easy to kind of like look back and cringe or laugh at yourself or whatever, but clearly this person did that for me. So yeah, it just kind of goes downhill from this point. And I mean, when I finish this journal, yeah, I think I finish this journal right in the middle of the bad point, which is not really the tone that I want to leave this video on. But then I'm talking about like how my eating is a problem. I tried to cut down to 1,500 calories a day and gradually reduce the intake, but my will was too weak. So I'm literally here bitching about the fact that I can't starve myself, essentially. I'm saying like I've got extra insulation, I have a weakness of spirit, gluttony. I want to starve myself, but I'm not the type to be anorexic, not neurotic enough, not strict enough with myself, too apathetic. So this is kind of worrying, sort of glorification of eating disorders. So maybe I can change. maybe I can force myself to keep to a diet. My school at the time, there was eating disorders everywhere. I was just surrounded by it a lot, I think. So it never occurred to me that I could actually not lose weight and still be fine. I mean, this is the thing. I was less than 55 kilos at the time. I don't know exactly how much I was, but I know that I was slim. I was probably a UK size 8, maybe a 10. And then I'm just like listing all the things that I hate about myself. And it is sad. I really just struggled because I placed my self-worth on having a reciprocated relationship with this person, and that was never going to happen for various reasons. But oh god, and then I read the bell jar. I mean, I read it for school, but like that really didn't help, did it? This is getting a little bit painful. You know, I was just absolutely full of self-loathing. So we've come to the end of the randomly selected diary. I think that the diaries when I was younger were probably more autistic, but less miserable, perhaps. This was a very difficult time in my life, was sort of age 16, 17, maybe 18. I had very kind of astutely diagnosed myself with manic depression, bipolar, borderline personality, schizophrenia, throughout this diary, and I definitely knew, I was very aware that something wasn't right inside my head, but I mean, I had absolutely no concept of autism back then. I seem to be pretty familiar with the other ones, but maybe they were just more commonly talked about in pop culture, I'm not sure. So I don't know if you've even made it this far. The sad internal life of an undiagnosed autistic girl at the time. I don't really blame anyone around me for not noticing, you know, specifically the autism at that time, because I clearly masked so well. And if I even had made it to a psychologist, there is no way they would have diagnosed me with autism. I mean, I probably would have been diagnosed with either with bipolar or with borderline personality disorder, because my moods were incredible. And I don't know if it was just hormones, but I mean, I don't know if this is typical for what teenagers go through. I suspect mental health problems with teenagers are even worse now, because I mean, this was before social media existed. And so I did have that place to retreat to at the end of the day, which was this. But I can't imagine for teens now, there is so much more pressure for all teens, not just like this situation that I had. I don't know, I think I'm gonna go have a cup of tea now, think about my life. But I want to say before I go, if you are in this position, if you are in this situation where you are writing things like I did, tell someone and find someone to help you, because I can look back on this now and laugh, and I can imagine being that person back then. I couldn't see the person that I would become. That's not to say that I don't have problems, but I'm happier. And I say that in a sort of like, with alexithymia, what is happy, la la la, I don't know. But I am happier with my life. I mean, now I've read this, like I'm super happy with my life. My life is awesome now. It's hard, but it's awesome. But please find someone to talk to, because it's not always gonna be like this, and you do change, you grow up, things get easier, things get better, and life is not always so sad. So, if you've made it this far, my goodness me, we've been on an adventure together. But thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see any other videos on autism and neurodiversity, then you can check out my playlist. It's right here. So see you next time.